A street girl on her own birthday dares to ask for just a slice of cake. The unexpected reaction of a millionaire changes everything in unimaginable ways. The biting wind punished the streets of Portland that winter night. Jack Rivera walked hurriedly, holding tight to the small hand of Lily, his 10-year-old daughter. The girl's thin jacket barely protected her from the intense cold, but her brown eyes sparkled as they observed the colorful storefronts they passed. Life on the streets wasn't easy. 2 years ago, Jack was a respected civil engineer at Horizon Construction. He had a comfortable house in the Riverdale neighborhood, a new car, and above all, a happy family. Maria, his wife, was a mathematics teacher, and together they planned a promising future for little Lily. But a succession of events completely transformed their reality. First came the economic crisis that hit the construction sector. The company where he worked began laying off employees, and Jack was one of the first to go, despite his 15 years of dedication. Their savings lasted a few months, but were soon depleted by the expenses of Maria's treatment after she became seriously ill. When she passed away, Jack had already lost almost everything. The house was taken by the bank, and all that remained were some clothes and photographs that he carried in a worn backpack. "Dad, look at that cake!" Lily's voice interrupted his somber thoughts. She was pointing to the illuminated window of Prairie Sun, one of Portland's most luxurious restaurants. Jack observed the 3-tiered cake decorated with strawberries that gleamed under the yellowish light. He felt a lump in his throat. Today was Lily's birthday, and he didn't even have the means to buy a small cupcake to celebrate. "It's beautiful, honey," he answered, his voice breaking. "I'm 10 years old today," she said, still hypnotized by the image of the cake. "Remember how Mom always made a chocolate cake with strawberries on my birthday?" Jack swallowed hard. How could he forget? Maria would spend hours in the kitchen, preparing everything with love. Lily would help decorate with strawberries, always secretly eating some. It was a family tradition that now belonged only to memories. "Of course I remember, Princess." Lily remained silent for a few seconds, still staring at the window display. Then, to Jack's surprise, she released his hand and walked determinedly toward the restaurant door. "Lily, what are you doing?" He ran after her, but the girl had already entered. The interior of Prairie Sun was even more imposing. Crystal chandeliers hung from the high ceiling, elegantly set tables with white tablecloths and silver cutlery accommodated well-dressed customers. The aroma of fine food filled the environment, mixing with the soft sound of a piano. The manager, a middle-aged man in an impeccable suit, quickly approached with a tense smile on his face. Jack felt the weight of disapproving glances upon them. "May I help you?" asked the manager with forced politeness. Before Jack could respond, embarrassed by the situation, Lily stepped forward and, with a firm voice, announced, "Today is my birthday." She took from her pocket some coins and a crumpled $5 bill, all the money she had collected from picking up cans, and placed it on the reception counter. "I wanted to know if I could buy a slice of that cake in the window. Just one. Slice, please." Silence took over the environment. Some customers exchanged uncomfortable glances, while others pretended not to see the scene. Jack felt his face burn with embarrassment, and, at the same time, pride in his daughter's courage. The manager looked at the insufficient money on the counter, and then at the girl with the worn coat and faded red beanie. His face showed the conflict between following the establishment's rules and the compassion he was beginning to feel. "I'm sorry, but we can't," he began, when a deep voice interrupted him. "Serve a slice of the best cake in the house for the birthday girl, please." Everyone turned to see who had spoken. A tall man with graying hair at the temples and a perfectly aligned dark suit approached the counter. It was Marcus Albright, owner of Nexus Technology, one of the largest technology companies in America. A frequent visitor to the restaurant, he was known for his discretion and for rarely interacting with other customers. "Mr. Albright," the manager adjusted his tie, visibly nervous. "Certainly, as you wish." "Actually," continued Marcus, looking at Lily with genuine curiosity, "I'd like to invite the birthday girl and her father to dine with me, if they'll accept, of course." Asterisk Jack stood paralyzed, not knowing how to react. Part of him wanted to refuse out of pride. Another part knew he couldn't deny his daughter the chance to have a decent birthday dinner after so long. "Thank you very much, sir, but we don't want to bother you," he finally replied. "Lily just wanted a slice of cake and—" "It's no bother at all," insisted Marcus with a discreet smile. "In fact, it would be an honor for me. I rarely have company for dinner, and today seems like a special occasion." Asterisk Lily looked at her father with pleading eyes. Jack sighed and nodded slightly. "Thank you very much, sir," exclaimed Lily, with a smile that lit up her face. Asterisk. The manager led them to Marcus's table near the window. The other customers observed the unusual scene, the powerful businessman dining with a clearly homeless man and his daughter. Some whispered, others disguised their discomfort. Asterisk. Seated at the table, Jack felt out of place. His calloused and dirty hands contrasted with the fine china. He noticed that Marcus was observing him carefully. "Forgive my intrusion," said the businessman, "but I couldn't help overhearing that it's your daughter's birthday. How old is she turning?" 10 years old, replied Jack, still embarrassed. 10. "Years. An important age," smiled Marcus at Lily. "And what's your name, young birthday girl?" "Lily Rivera," she responded, gaining confidence. "And yours?" Asterisk Jack choked on the water he was drinking, surprised by his daughter's spontaneity. "Marcus Albright," replied the businessman with a light laugh. "The first in a long time. It's a pleasure to meet you, Lily Rivera." Asterisk. The waiter approached to take their orders. Marcus suggested they try the house specialty, a traditional refined beef dish with premium ingredients. For dessert, not just a slice but an entire small chocolate cake with strawberries would be specially prepared for Lily. Asterisk. During dinner, the conversation flowed surprisingly naturally. Lily told about her dream of becoming an architect and building houses for homeless people. Jack, gradually more relaxed, mentioned his past as a civil engineer. "Civil engineering?" Marcus seemed intrigued. "Which company did you work for?" "Horizon Construction. I was a project manager for 15 years, until the crisis of 2020, so." Asterisk Marcus nodded thoughtfully. "I know Horizon well. A shame what happened to them after the crisis. Many good professionals lost their jobs." Asterisk. When the cake arrived with a small lit candle, Lily's eyes filled with tears of joy. The entire restaurant seemed to be watching as she closed her eyes, made her wish in silence, and blew out the candle. The spontaneous applause that followed surprised everyone, even Marcus. Asterisk. At the end of the night, as they savored the cake, Marcus asked, "And where are you currently living?" Asterisk Jack hesitated, the shame returning like a wave. "We're in transition," he answered vaguely. "We sleep under Prospect Bridge," Lily responded with the characteristic honesty of children. "But only when it doesn't rain too much. When it rains, we go to the city shelter, but we can't stay there too many days in a row." Asterisk. The silence that followed was heavy. Marcus looked out the window, where Portland's cold night seemed even more relentless now. Something inside him, dormant for years, began to awaken. Asterisk. If this story interested you, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and give a like. Tell us what city you're watching us from. We continue. Marcus Albright woke up with a start. The digital clock beside the bed marked 5:30 a.m. He had slept only 3 hours, but the restless sleep, filled with images of the girl with the faded red beanie, prevented him from continuing in bed. He got up and walked to the immense glass window that occupied the entire wall of his penthouse in Windmill Heights. Asterisk. Down below, Portland was still sleeping, covered by the typical fog of winter mornings. Somewhere, under a bridge, Jack and Lily were probably fighting against the cutting cold. That thought bothered him more than he would like to admit. Asterisk. At 45, Marcus had built an empire. Nexus Technology employed more than 2,000 workers and had branches in 5 countries. His fortune was estimated in billions. He had everything money could buy: luxury cars, valuable works of art, trips around the world. However, the only constant company in his life was Sophie, his personal assistant. who managed his schedule with impeccable efficiency. Asterisk. His routine rarely changed: wake up early, train in the private gym installed in his apartment, work tirelessly until late at night, dine alone, frequently at Prairie Sun, sleep and start over. The weekends were filled with technical readings, project reviews, and occasionally some social event where he maintained the same distant and professional posture. Asterisk. It wasn't always like this. There was a time when Marcus smiled more, when he shared dreams with Beatrice, his fiancée from his youth, but she chose to follow her dream of working with humanitarian aid in Africa, and he opted for a promising career in technology. They promised to maintain the relationship at a distance, but the years and different life choices created an insurmountable abyss between them. The last news he had of Beatrice was that she had married a British doctor and continued her humanitarian work. Asterisk. Since then, Marcus had dived headfirst into business. Professional success temporarily filled the void left by abandoned dreams of family, but over the years, the feeling of emptiness only increased. No one really knew him beyond the public image of the successful businessman. Asterisk. Until the previous night, when a 10-year-old girl with enough courage to enter one of the most expensive restaurants in the city with a few coins in her pocket managed to break without realizing it the armor he had built around himself. Asterisk. Marcus served himself coffee and picked up his phone. "Sophie, good morning. I know it's early, but I need you to do some research for me," he said as soon as his assistant answered. "Good morning, Mr. Albright. No problem. What's it about?" "I want information about a former engineer from Horizon Construction named Jack Rivera. I also need to know about social assistance programs for homeless people in Portland and options for quality temporary housing." Asterisk. The silence on the other end of the line indicated Sophie's surprise. In 15 years working for Marcus, she had never received a similar request. "Anything else, sir?" "Yes. Contact the administration of the Phoenix building. I want to know if there are apartments available for immediate rental." Asterisk. After hanging up, Marcus made a decision. He would not go to the office that morning. He had something more important to do. Asterisk dash 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 asterisk. Jack woke up with the cold penetrating his bones. Prospect Bridge didn't offer enough protection against the frost that covered Portland that morning. Beside him, Lily slept wrapped in 2 thin blankets, her serene face contrasting with the hardness of the sidewalk where they rested. Asterisk. The previous night seemed like a distant dream. The dinner at Prairie Sun, the birthday cake, the conversation with the businessman. Jack knew that moment of dignity had been just a brief interval in the daily struggle for survival. Today they would return to the routine, looking for work, collecting cans, getting food, finding a safe place to sleep. Asterisk. But something had changed inside him. Seeing the sparkle in Lily's eyes as she blew out the cake candle, hearing her dreams of becoming an architect, feeling the taste of hope again, all of this had lit a determination he thought was lost. His daughter deserved more than a life. Under bridges. Asterisk. Lily stirred and slowly opened her eyes. "Good morning, Dad," she murmured, her voice still groggy with sleep. "Good morning, Princess. Did you sleep well?" "I dreamed about the chocolate cake," she smiled, sitting up and rubbing her eyes. "It was real, wasn't it? I didn't imagine everything." Asterisk. Jack smiled, stroking his daughter's hair. "It was real as you and me." Asterisk. They arranged their few belongings in the worn backpack and prepared to face another day. The plan was to go to the downtown resource center, where they could shower and receive breakfast. Afterward, Jack would try to get some work as a helper at informal construction sites, while Lily would stay in the space for children. Asterisk. They were about to leave from under the bridge when a shiny black car stopped near them. It was a latest model, BMW with darkened windows. Jack instinctively pulled Lily closer, suspicious. Asterisk. To his surprise, Marcus Albright got out of the vehicle, wearing a grey cashmere sweater and dark pants. He seemed strangely out of place in that environment, but his face showed determination. "Good morning," he said, approaching cautiously. "I hope I'm not intruding." Jack and Lily were speechless, confused by the businessman's presence there. "How did you find us?" Jack finally asked. "You mentioned Prospect Bridge yesterday," replied Marcus. "I came early because I imagined you would be leaving soon in the morning." Lily smiled openly upon recognizing the man from the restaurant. "Good morning, Mr. Marcus." She greeted him with the spontaneity characteristic of children. "Did you come to visit us?" Marcus smiled, charmed by the girl's simplicity. "In a way, yes. Actually, I came to make a proposal to your father." Jack stiffened. He knew well the proposals that rich people usually made to the less fortunate. They usually involved momentary charity that relieved the donor's conscience more than it actually transformed the life of those who received it. "Look, Mr. Albright, I really appreciate the dinner last night, but we don't need handouts," he said, trying to maintain his dignity. "I'm not offering handouts, Mr. Rivera," Marcus responded seriously. "I'm offering an opportunity, for you and for me." Marcus's gaze was sincere, without the typical veneer of pity or superiority that Jack had learned to detect in the last few years on the streets. "I have a vacant apartment in one of my properties," continued Marcus. "It's been closed for years since my parents passed away. It needs maintenance and renovations, and I thought a civil engineer would be the ideal person to supervise this work." Jack narrowed his eyes, suspicious. "Are you offering me a job?" "I'm offering a place to live temporarily and a job, yes. The apartment needs structural renovations before being put up for rent, and my current team doesn't have experience with this type of project. You would have the freedom to choose materials, hire helpers if necessary, and implement the project as you see fit, within the budget we established together." Lily squeezed her father's hand, her eyes begging him to accept. "And what would you gain from this?" asked Jack, still skeptical. Marcus hesitated for a moment. "A good professional supervising an important project. And, honestly, the chance to do something different, something that really matters." A heavy silence settled between them. Jack felt the weight of the decision. Accepting would mean depending on a stranger, however well-intentioned he might seem. Refusing would condemn Lily to more time on the streets. "Could I see the apartment first?" he finally asked. Marcus Quota's face lit up with a discreet smile. "Of course. It's in the Phoenix building in Highland Park. We can go right now if you want." Lily jumped with joy, already running to the car even before her father answered. Jack followed her more cautiously, still processing what was happening. The Phoenix building was an old but elegant building, with only 6 floors and 2 apartments per floor. It was located on a quiet, tree-lined street, close to schools and parks. The doorman respectfully greeted Marcus when they entered. The apartment was on the 4th floor. When Marcus opened the door, Jack immediately understood what he meant by needing renovations. The place was dusty, with wallpaper peeling off, water stains on the ceiling, and a persistent smell of mold. The old furniture was covered by white sheets, creating ghostly silhouettes throughout the spacious living room. "It was my parents' apartment," explained Marcus. "It's been closed since they passed away about 8 years ago. I never had the courage to sell it or rent it out, but now I think it's time to give new life to this place." Jack walked through the apartment, analyzing it with technical eyes. 3 spacious bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, a kitchen integrated with the dining room, a small balcony. Despite the state of abandonment, the place had excellent structure and potential. Lily ran from one room to another, marveling at the space. "Dad, look at the size of this room," she shouted from the hallway. "Can we stay here? Please?" Jack looked at Marcus, who was observing the scene with a half smile. "Is this really serious?" asked Jack in a low voice. "It's not some kind of momentary charity that you'll regret in a week. It's a business proposal, Mr. Rivera," replied Marcus, "with a formal contract if you prefer. You have the skills I need, and I have the resources you need at the moment. It seems like a fair exchange to me." Jack took a deep breath, looking around. On one side, the wounded pride of a man who lost everything. On the other, his daughter's future. A week later, the apartment in the Phoenix building was beginning to come to life. Jack had accepted Marcus's proposal, but not without first demanding a formal contract that specified his responsibilities and remuneration. His pride would not allow it to be just a case of charity. The morning sun entered through the newly cleaned windows, illuminating the living room where several cans of paint, rollers, brushes, and tools were methodically organized. Jack was inspecting the floor plan he had drawn, marking the priority areas for renovation. Lily entered the living room wearing her new school uniform. In the same week they moved, Marcus had arranged for her enrollment at Fairview Academy, one of the best schools in Portland. The girl still seemed out of place in the impeccable clothes, but her smile revealed the excitement of returning to studies after almost 2 years. "How do I look, Dad?" she asked, twirling to show the complete uniform. Jack felt a tightness in his chest. She looked so much like Maria at that moment, with the same bright eyes full of hope. "Beautiful, my princess. Ready for the first day?" Lily nodded, although a slight tremor in her lower lip betrayed her nervousness. "What if the other children find out I lived on the street?" she asked in a low voice. Jack knelt down to be at eye level with her. "Listen carefully, Lily. It doesn't matter where we slept yesterday. What matters is what we do today and tomorrow. You are intelligent, brave, and have the most generous heart I know. Anyone would be lucky to be your friend." The doorbell rang, interrupting the conversation. It was Sophie, Marcus's assistant, who had offered to take Lily to school in the first few days. The woman in her 40s, always impeccably dressed and with a professional posture, had developed a special affection for the girl. "Good morning, Lily. How beautiful you look," exclaimed Sophie with a warm smile. "Ready to meet your new school?" Lily said goodbye to her father with a tight hug and followed Sophie to the elevator. Jack observed his daughter leave, feeling a mixture of pride and apprehension. It was another stage in the reconstruction of their lives, another step away from the streets. He turned his attention to the renovation project. The budget approved by Marcus was generous, allowing not only to restore the apartment, but to modernize it with quality materials. Jack had hired 2 helpers, Peter, a young carpentry apprentice he had met on the streets, and Anthony, an experienced mason who had also fallen on hard times after the crisis. The renovation was not just of the apartment, but of broken lives, seeking a second chance. Jack saw this as an even greater responsibility than the project itself. The cell phone, another item provided by Marcus, rang. It was the businessman himself. "Good morning, Jack. How's the renovation coming along?" "Good morning. We're progressing well. The wallpaper removal is almost complete, and today we'll start treating the water damage on the living room ceiling." "Excellent. I have a meeting nearby at noon. Would it be inconvenient if I stopped by to see the progress?" Jack felt a slight discomfort. Despite the cordial relationship they had been maintaining, he still felt insecure in Marcus's presence. "Of course not. We'll be here." Upon hanging up, Jack noticed his hands were slightly trembling. Why did he feel this way? Perhaps because, despite all the formality of the agreement, he still didn't completely understand Marcus's motivations. What did a billionaire gain by helping a disgraced former engineer? At precisely 12:30, Marcus arrived. He wore a navy blue suit that certainly cost more than Jack would earn in months, but his countenance was tired, with visible dark circles under his eyes. "Sorry for the delay," he said, loosening his tie. "Complicated day at the office." "No problem. Would you like to see what we've done?" Jack guided Marcus through the apartment, explaining in detail each planned intervention, the chosen materials, and the solutions found for structural problems. He spoke with the confidence of someone who mastered the subject, and for a few moments he forgot the social disparity between them. He was just a competent engineer presenting his work. "I'm impressed," commented Marcus at the end of the tour. "You really know what you're doing." 15 years managing projects don't vanish overnight," replied Jack. Allowing himself a small smile of pride. Marcus nodded thoughtfully. Jack, there's something I'd like to discuss with you. It's not directly related to the renovation of this apartment. The serious tone alarmed Jack. Could it be possible that Marcus was already regretting the agreement? Is there a problem? Actually, an opportunity. My company is developing a new technology campus in the northern part of the city. We bought an extensive piece of land, but the project is facing challenges with the contracted construction company. They aren't managing to align the architectural vision with the company's technical needs. Jack listened attentively, not understanding where Marcus was going. I'd like you to analyze the projects and give me your professional opinion. No commitment, just as a consultant. The surprise left Jack momentarily speechless. One thing was renovating an apartment, another, completely different, was giving opinions on a large-scale corporate project. But it's been years since I worked with projects of that size, and my name is practically burned in the market after so much time unemployed. I'm not hiring your name, Jack. I'm interested in your experience and technical knowledge. The proposal was tempting and frightening. At the same time, it represented a return to the professional world from which he had been expelled, but it also meant exposing himself again to judgment and possible failure. Can I think about it? Certainly, replied Marcus. The documents are in my car. I'll leave them with you to analyze when you feel comfortable. After Marcus's departure, Jack continued working mechanically, but his mind was on the implications of that proposal. What would it mean to return to acting as an engineer? Would he be able to face the demands and pressures after so long? At the end of the afternoon, when Sophie brought Lily back from school, the girl's excitement was contagious. She talked non-stop about her new teacher, the colleagues she had met, the immense library and the science laboratory. And guess what, Dad? The teacher said there will be a science fair next month, and we can choose any topic to present. I want to do a project on sustainable architecture, like those buildings you showed me in the magazines. Lily's enthusiasm illuminated the rest of Jack's day. Observing his daughter doing her homework at the newly installed kitchen table, he felt that perhaps it was time to set fear aside and embrace the new possibilities. When Lily was already sleeping, Jack opened the envelope left by Marcus. It contained plans, descriptive memorials, and technical specifications for the Nexus Technology Campus project. As he analyzed the documents, his trained eye began to identify inconsistencies and problems that could compromise the execution of the work. He took a pencil and began making notes in the margins, sketching alternative solutions. He lost track of time, completely absorbed in the plans, like in the old days. The sensation was familiar and comforting, being in his element again, using knowledge and skills he thought were lost. It was already past midnight when his phone rang. It was Marcus, his voice tense. Jack, sorry to call so late. We have an emergency at the campus site. One of the provisional structures has given way due to the heavy rain, and I need someone who understands the subject to assess the situation before the team begins any intervention. I know it's an absurd request at this hour, but I'll need someone to stay with Lily, interrupted Jack, already looking for his coat. Sophie can go there immediately. I'll send a car to pick you up in 15 minutes. Jack hesitated for only a second before responding. I'll be ready. While waiting, Jack reflected on how life could change in an instant. Weeks ago, he slept under a bridge, invisible to society. Now he was about to offer technical consultation in an emergency for one of the largest technology companies in the country. The car arrived punctually, and Sophie appeared soon after. Jack quickly explained where Lily was sleeping and left for the rainy night. On the way to the site, he mentally reviewed safety procedures and structural assessment. The location was an immense construction site partially illuminated by spotlights. Engineers and workers gathered under an improvised tent, frantically discussing. When Jack got out of the car, Marcus came to meet him, the elegant suit replaced by a waterproof jacket and rubber boots. "Thank you for coming," he said, guiding Jack to the affected area. The containment structure on the northeast slope has partially given way, and we have expensive equipment and workers at risk if there's a larger landslide. Jack observed the situation carefully. The heavy rain had saturated the soil, and the temporary containment was not adequate for that type of terrain. It was a basic project error that could have serious consequences. "Who approved this containment?" he asked, his voice firm and professional. "The team from Andrews and Sons Construction. The responsible engineer is there in the red jacket." Jack immediately recognized Ryan Andrews, a former college colleague known for cutting costs on materials. He took a deep breath and walked to the group of engineers, aware of the curious glances following him. "Good evening, gentlemen," he greeted, with authority. "I'm Jack Rivera, consultant for Mr. Albright. I need a complete assessment of the situation and access to the containment projects." Ryan Andrews frowned, clearly not recognizing Jack. How could he? The man before him looked nothing like the successful engineer from years ago, nor like the homeless person of the last few weeks. He was someone new, being reborn from the ashes like the phoenix, the mythical bird that adorned the logo of the Phoenix building. 3 months had passed since the night of the emergency at the construction site. Jack and Lily's lives had transformed in ways they could never have imagined. The apartment in the Phoenix building was almost completely renovated, with walls in light tones that reflected natural light, new floors, and a modern kitchen that had become the heart of the home. Jack now officially worked as an engineering consultant for Nexus Technology. After his competent intervention in the containment crisis, Marcus offered him a formal contract to supervise the entire new campus project. At first, Jack faced resistance from the original team, especially from Ryan Andrews, who felt threatened by the presence of the new consultant. But his experience and technical knowledge soon earned the respect of the other engineers. Lily was flourishing in the new school. Her natural intelligence and determination made her stand out among her peers, and the teachers frequently praised her creativity and commitment. The project on sustainable architecture for the science fair was taking shape, with cardboard models and recycled materials spread throughout the girls' room. That Friday morning began like so many others in the new routine. Jack was preparing coffee while Lily arranged her backpack for school. "Dad, you'll be able to go to the science fair next week, won't you?" she asked, biting a toast with jelly. "Of course, Princess. I've already told Marcus I'll need to leave early. On Wednesday." "Uncle Marcus is coming too," announced Lily naturally. Jack raised his eyebrows, surprised. "What do you mean?" "I invited him yesterday, when he called to ask about my project. He said he wouldn't miss it for the world." The ease with which Lily referred to Marcus as uncle and the apparent closeness between them left Jack slightly uncomfortable. In the last few weeks, Marcus had started visiting the apartment frequently, always bringing small gifts for Lily: books on architecture, a professional drawing kit, a collection of miniatures of famous buildings. The girl adored him, and often told stories about the conversations they had when he picked her up from school on days Jack needed to stay later at the construction site. "Have you been talking to him a lot?" asked Jack, trying to sound casual. "Almost every day," replied Lily enthusiastically. "He called me last night to ask about the project, and I ended up inviting him. Is that a problem?" "No, of course not. I just didn't know you talked so much." A slight feeling of jealousy and insecurity grew in Jack. Was his daughter becoming too attached to Marcus? Was the businessman trying to occupy a space that didn't belong to him? The doorbell interrupted his thoughts. It was Sophie, punctual, as always, to take Lily to school. Marcus's assistant had become a constant presence in their lives, helping with practical matters and developing a genuine affection for Lily. "Good morning, Jack," greeted Sophie with her usual professional smile. "Marcus asked me to inform you that there will be an important meeting today in the afternoon with the campus investors. Your presence is fundamental." "I'll be there," replied Jack, still distracted by his thoughts. After Lily and Sophie's departure, Jack finished getting ready for work. In the mirror, he barely recognized the man who stared back. The once gaunt face and unkempt beard had given way to a healthy and professional appearance. The new clothes, chosen with Sophie's help, reflected the position he now occupied. Outwardly, he was again the respected engineer from before, but inside, insecurity still haunted him. On the way to the construction site, he received a call from an unknown number. "Hello? Jack Rivera?" asked a female voice. "This is Deborah. Fox, from Construct and Innovate magazine. We're preparing an article on the new Nexus Technology campus, highlighting the sustainable innovations of the project. We'd like to interview you as the engineer responsible for the revision that saved the project." Jack almost choked. "How did you get my number?" "Marcus Albright indicated you to us as the professional behind the main technical solutions of the project." The surprise left Jack momentarily speechless. Why was Marcus promoting his name in this way? "I need to check my schedule. Can I call back later?" Upon hanging up, Jack felt a mixture of gratitude and suspicion. As much as he appreciated the opportunity, he couldn't completely understand Marcus's intentions. The businessman seemed committed to rebuilding not only his career, but his reputation in the market. And now, apparently, he was getting close to Lily in a way that Jack hadn't foreseen. Arriving at the construction site, he was greeted by Ryan Andrews with the usual forced smile. "Good morning, Rivera. I see you've finally decided to honor us with your presence." Jack ignored the provocation. In the last few weeks, Ryan made no effort to hide his dissatisfaction with Jack's growing influence in the project. "Good morning, Ryan. Any news on the foundation of the eastern sector?" "Everything. Under control as it always was before you arrived," he replied dryly. "But since you asked, we found an inconsistency between the hydraulic project and the structure of the main building. Nothing we can't solve without your brilliant consultation." The sarcasm was evident, but Jack maintained his professional composure. "I'd like to see the projects, please. If there's an inconsistency, we need to resolve it before the meeting with the investors." Ryan handed over the plans reluctantly, and Jack immersed himself in work. Hours later, he had not only identified the problem, but proposed an elegant solution that better integrated the systems. When Marcus arrived for the meeting with the investors, Jack presented the solution with the confidence of someone who mastered the subject. The investors were impressed, and Marcus seemed genuinely proud. After the meeting, he called Jack for a private conversation in his temporary office at the construction site. "Excellent work today, Jack. The investors are very satisfied with the progress of the project since you took over the consultancy." "Thank you, but it was a team effort," replied Jack. "Always modest. Marcus smiled, serving 2 cups of coffee. "By the way, I received your message about the interview for the magazine. I hope I didn't cross any boundaries by indicating your name. I thought it would be a good opportunity to formally reintroduce you to the market." "I appreciate the intention, but I prefer to be consulted beforehand," said Jack, trying not to sound ungrateful. "And there's something else I'd like to clarify." "About Lily," interrupted Marcus, surprising Jack. "Sophie mentioned that you seemed uncomfortable this morning when you learned about our conversations." Jack felt his face heat up. "It's not discomfort, it's concern. Lily has already gone through many losses, and she's becoming very attached to you. I don't want her to get hurt if one day you get tired of this situation." Marcus placed the cup on the table, his countenance suddenly serious. "Jack, I need to be honest with you. My interest in helping you was never just professional or a simple act of charity." Jack's heart accelerated. Here it came, finally, the true motivation he had been trying to decipher. "When I saw you that night at the restaurant, something awakened in me," continued Marcus. "Something that had been dormant for years since I lost my parents and dedicated myself exclusively to business. Lily reminded me of what it is to have purpose beyond work, and you showed me what true courage is." Jack didn't know how to respond. Marcus's sincerity caught him off guard. "I know it sounds strange, maybe even inappropriate, but you brought something back to my life. And yes, I have been getting closer to Lily, but always respecting your place as a father. I would never interfere with that." A heavy silence hung between them. Jack wanted to believe in Marcus's sincerity, but years of disappointments had made him cautious. "Marcus, I appreciate everything you've done, but I need to be sure that your intentions are genuine and lasting. I can't allow Lily to suffer more losses." "I completely understand," replied Marcus, "and I respect your concern. I only ask that you give me the chance to prove that I'm here for as long as you want me around." Asterisk. The conversation was interrupted by an urgent call. It was Sophie, her normally controlled voice now trembling with concern. "Jack, it's Lily. There was an incident at school." Jack's world seemed to stop. "What happened? Is she okay?" "Physically, yes, but there was a situation with some colleagues. I'm going to pick her up now. I thought you should know." Jack was already gathering his things, his heart racing. "I'm heading there now." Marcus, perceiving the gravity of the situation, immediately offered, "I'll go with you. My car is closer." They arrived at the school in record time. In the principal's office, they found Lily sitting in a corner, her eyes red from crying. The principal, a middle-aged woman with a severe expression, stood up to receive them. "Mr. Rivera, thank you for coming so quickly. Mr. Albright, we weren't expecting your presence." "I'm a friend of the family," replied Marcus simply. "What happened to Lily?" The principal explained that during recess a group of students had confronted Lily about her past. Apparently, someone had discovered that she had lived on the streets and spread the information throughout the school. The malicious comments culminated in a confrontation where Lily, defending herself, ended up pushing one of the girls. "We understand the delicate situation," said the principal, "but we cannot tolerate physical aggression regardless of the circumstances." Jack knelt beside his daughter. "It's okay, Princess. Let's go home and talk about this." Lily raised her tear-filled eyes. "I don't want to come back here, Dad. They said I don't belong in this place, that I'm just a—" She swallowed the rest of the sentence, unable to repeat the cruel words. Jack felt a wave of anger and helplessness. As much as he tried to protect Lily, social prejudice was a barrier that money or position couldn't completely overcome. To everyone's surprise, Marcus approached the principal with an expression that few had seen, that of the powerful CEO accustomed to resolving complex situations. "Principal Oliveira, I believe there's a misunderstanding here. If the school allows its students to practice bullying based on social prejudice, perhaps we should reconsider not only Lily's permanence, but also the substantial financial support that my foundation recently offered to the scholarship program." The principal turned pale. "Mr. Albright, I assure you that the school does not tolerate bullying of any nature. We will investigate the incident completely and take appropriate measures." "I hope so," he replied, firmly, "because Lily Rivera is an exemplary student with brilliant potential and deserves to be treated with the same respect as any other student." On the way back home, in the back seat of Marcus's car, Lily finally spoke about what had happened. One of the girls saw her in a report about homeless people that a local station had done months before. The news spread quickly, and the malicious comments began. "They kept asking if I ate trash, if I took showers, if I stole," she recounted, her voice breaking. "I tried to ignore it, as you always taught me, Dad. But when Clarissa said I was only in that school because Uncle Marcus felt sorry for us, I couldn't take it." Jack felt his heart tighten. It was his greatest fear materializing, that the past on the streets would haunt Lily, marking her forever. Marcus, who had been driving in silence until then, spoke without taking his eyes off the road. "Lily, do you know why I invited your father to work with me?" The girl sniffled, shaking her head negatively. "Because he's the best engineer I've ever known. Even before I knew about his professional past, I saw how he analyzed every detail of the apartment with expert eyes. It wasn't pity. It was recognition of talent." Jack looked at Marcus through the rearview mirror, surprised by his words. "And you, Lily," continued Marcus, "are not in that school out of charity. You're there because you deserve the best education possible to become the brilliant architect I know you'll be one day." Asterisk. The apartment was silent when they arrived. Jack prepared hot chocolate for Lily, while Marcus made some calls in the improvised office in the living room. An hour later, he entered the kitchen with a satisfied expression. "I just spoke with the principal again. The students involved will be suspended, and the school will immediately implement an awareness program about social prejudice. Additionally, the art teacher is particularly interested in integrating Lily's sustainable architecture project into the regular curriculum." Asterisk Jack looked at the businessman with a mixture of gratitude and suspicion. It was impressive how Marcus could resolve any situation with a few calls. But something still bothered him. Asterisk. If this story interested you, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and give a like. Tell us what city you're watching us from. We continue. "Why are you doing all this, Marcus? The truth, please." Jack's question hung in the air of the kitchen. Lily, sensing the tension between the adults, looked apprehensively from one to the other. "I think I'll finish my model," she said, taking her mug of hot chocolate. "Can I go to my room?" Asterisk Jack nodded, briefly caressing his daughter's hair. When the bedroom door closed, he turned his attention to Marcus, who remained silent, as if organizing his thoughts. "You asked me this before," Marcus finally began, "and I replied that you brought something back to my life, but there's more." Asterisk. He took a deep breath, running his hand through the graying hair at his temples. "I knew your wife, Jack. I knew Maria." Asterisk Jack felt as if the ground had disappeared beneath his feet. Of all the possible revelations, this was the last he expected. "How? When?" he asked, his voice almost a whisper. Asterisk Marcus sat at the kitchen table, indicating for Jack to do the same. "It was almost 3 years ago, shortly before she became ill. Nexus was developing an educational technology project, and we needed consultants. Maria was one of those selected for the pilot program." Asterisk Jack tried to process the information. Maria had mentioned an extra project at school, but never went into details. He always thought it was just a government program. "She never told me she was working for your company. Technically, she was a consultant for a foundation linked to Nexus, not directly for the company," explained Marcus. "The project was called Education for the Future. We created a digital platform to democratize the teaching of advanced mathematics in public schools." Asterisk Jack vaguely recalled Maria mentioning something about mathematics and technology. She always returned excited from these meetings, talking about how it could transform education. "Maria was brilliant," continued Marcus. "She had a unique way of simplifying complex concepts. Her contributions were fundamental to the success of the project." "I still don't understand what this has to do with what you're doing for us now," said Jack, the distrust evident in his voice. Asterisk Marcus took another deep breath. "The project was almost completed when Maria began missing meetings. I discovered later that it was because of her illness. When I learned she was hospitalized, I sent flowers to the hospital, offered help with the medical costs. She politely refused, saying that you and she would find a way." Asterisk Jack remembered the mysterious flowers that arrived at the hospital without a card or clear identification. Maria always smiled, but never explained who sent them. "A few months later, I received the news that she had passed away. The project continued, was implemented in dozens of schools, won international awards. But I never forgot the passionate teacher who had given so much of herself to make it a reality." Asterisk Marcus paused, his eyes lost in memories. "Last year, we decided to create an annual award in her name, the Maria Rivera Award for Educational Innovation. We were planning the first ceremony when I tried to locate the family to invite them. That's when I discovered you had lost everything. My investigators couldn't find you, only reported that the last known address was empty, and there were rumors that you were homeless." Asterisk Jack felt a lump in his throat. The idea that someone was looking for him while he and Lily slept under bridges was disturbing. "So that night at Prairie Sun, you recognized us?" "Not immediately," admitted Marcus. "When I saw Lily entering the restaurant, I was intrigued by her courage. It was only when you mentioned your full name that I made the connection. I recognized her eyes, just like her mother's." Asterisk Jack abruptly stood up, walking to the window. Night had fallen over Portland, and the city lights twinkled in the distance. His mind was buzzing with this new information. Why didn't you tell me this before? Why all this mystery? I feared your reaction, replied Marcus honestly, that you would think it was just guilt or an attempt at compensation. I wanted to help you genuinely, without the past complicating things. Guilt for what? You had nothing to do with our situation. Marcus lowered his eyes. Not directly, but the project consumed much of Maria's time in those last months before the diagnosis. Sometimes I wonder if the additional stress didn't worsen her condition. Jack shook his head, sitting back down. The disease had nothing to do with her work, Marcus. It was genetic, unpredictable. The doctors were clear about that. A heavy silence settled between them. Jack tried to absorb all the implications of this revelation. Part of him felt betrayed by Marcus not being honest from the beginning. Another part understood his reasons. There's one more thing you need to know, said Marcus finally. The award in Maria's name will be presented for the first time next month. We wanted Lily to be present to hand over the trophy to the winning school. Jack felt a mixture of emotions. The idea that Maria's legacy continued to live through her work was comforting, but the way everything happened still bothered him. I need to process all of this, Marcus. It's a lot of information at once. I understand. Take the time you need, replied the businessman, standing up. I only ask that, regardless of what you decide about the award, don't let it affect our professional agreement. Your work on the campus has been exceptional, and it would be a loss for everyone if you stepped away because of this. When Marcus left, Jack remained in the kitchen, stunned. The image of Maria talking animatedly about the project came back to his mind. How did he not notice the importance of it to her? He was so focused on his own problems at the construction company that perhaps he didn't give due attention to his wife's achievements. He walked slowly to Lily's room and cracked open the door. The girl was concentrated on her model, carefully, cutting small pieces of cardboard to form what appeared to be a sustainable housing complex. Around her, spread across the bed, were the architecture books that Marcus had given her. Jack felt a pang of guilt for having doubted the businessman's intentions. Dad? Lily noticed his presence. Is everything okay? Yes, Princess. Just came to see how the project is coming along. She smiled, the incident at school momentarily forgotten amid the creative enthusiasm. I'm making a set of affordable houses that use rainwater and solar energy. See, each house has a system that... As Lily enthusiastically explained her project, Jack thought about how Maria would have loved to see her daughter like this, passionate about creating, about building, about transforming. It was as if a part of her lived through Lily. Has Uncle Marcus already left? She asked, interrupting her technical explanations. Yes, he had commitments, replied Jack, sitting on the edge of the bed. Lily, do you remember when Mum participated in that special project at school? The girl's eyes lit up with the memory. Of course, she was super excited, talking about how the students would be able to learn mathematics in a fun way with computers and tablets. She even showed me some games they were creating. Jack smiled sadly. Maria shared more with Lily about the project than with him. What would you think about participating in an award ceremony in Mom's name? Apparently, they created an award with her name for schools that do innovative projects. Lily dropped the scissors, her eyes wide. An award with Mom's name? Seriously? Her voice overflowed with emotion. Can we go, please? She would be so happy. Lily's genuine reaction helped Jack make his decision. Regardless of his conflicting feelings toward Marcus, he couldn't deny his daughter the chance to honor her mother's memory. That night, he sent a message to Marcus. We'll be at the award ceremony. Lily was moved by the idea. As for the rest, I'm still processing everything, but I appreciate your honesty, even if late. The response came almost immediately. Thank you, Jack. It means a lot to me too. I promise that from now on, there will only be truth between us. The following week, Jack immersed himself in work with even more intensity. The campus project was advancing rapidly, and his technical leadership had completely transformed the progress of the work. Even Ryan Andrews, initially so resistant, was beginning to recognize his value. Lily returned to school, now received differently by her colleagues. The incident had generated an important discussion about social prejudice, and the principal made sure that everyone learned from what happened. Lily's sustainable architecture project gained special prominence, with a presentation for all classes. But not everything was perfect. As the date of the Maria Rivera award ceremony approached, Jack noticed strange behavior in Marcus. The businessman, normally so confident and direct, seemed nervous during meetings, frequently checking his cell phone and leaving to take confidential calls. On a particularly tense afternoon, Jack found him in his temporary office, heatedly discussing on the phone. "I don't care about the price, find a solution," Marcus was saying without noticing Jack's presence at the door. "We can't let this become public now, understood?" Upon noticing Jack, Marcus quickly ended the call. "Any problem?" asked Jack, trying to disguise that he had heard part of the conversation. "Nothing important, just bureaucratic matters of the company," replied Marcus, visibly uncomfortable. "How's the work schedule?" Jack explained the recent advances, but his mind was on the strange conversation he had just witnessed. What would Marcus be trying to hide? Was it something related to the award or to Nexus technology? In the days that followed, Jack realized he wasn't the only one to notice Marcus's unusual behavior. Sophie, always so discreet, seemed equally concerned. One morning when she came to pick up Lily for school, Jack took the opportunity to probe. "Sophie, is everything okay with Marcus? He seems stressed lately." The assistant hesitated, clearly divided between loyalty to her boss and genuine concern. "There are some complications in the company. Nothing you should worry about." "Are you sure? Because if it affects the campus project—" "It's not the campus," interrupted Sophie. "It's something more personal." The enigmatic response only increased. Jack's concern. What could be so serious as to shake someone as controlled as Marcus Albright? The answer came unexpectedly, 2 days before the award ceremony. Jack was in the kitchen preparing dinner when the phone rang. It was an unknown number. "Mr. Rivera?" asked a female voice. "This is Deborah Fox from Business Magazine. We're preparing an article about Marcus Albright and his involvement with the family of a deceased former collaborator. We'd like to hear your version of the story." Jack felt his blood freeze. How had the press discovered this? "I don't know what you're talking about," he responded automatically. "We have information that you and your daughter were homeless until being rescued by Albright, who apparently maintained a special relationship with your late wife. There are rumors that this relationship went beyond the professional." The insinuation made Jack feel a wave of anger. "This is absurd and defamatory. I have nothing to declare." He hung up the phone, trembling. The pieces were beginning to fit together. Marcus's mysterious calls, his nervousness, his concern about keeping something away from the public. It wasn't about the company or the award. It was about them, Jack, Lily, and Maria's memory. Without thinking twice, Jack grabbed his car keys and drove to the central office of Nexus Technology. He needed to talk to Marcus immediately. The imposing glass and steel building that housed the company's headquarters reflected the last lights of dusk when Jack arrived. At reception, he was stopped by the security guard. "Mr. Albright is in a closed meeting and cannot be interrupted," informed the man. "Tell him it's Jack Rivera and it's urgent. I'm sure he'll see me." Minutes later, he was conducted to the executive floor. Marcus was waiting for him in his office, his expression grave. "Jack, what happened?" "Sophie said it seemed urgent." "A journalist just called me," said Jack without preamble. "She's preparing an article about you, me, Lily, and Maria, making absurd insinuations about your relationship with my wife." Marcus closed his eyes for a moment as if confirming a fear. "Sit down, Jack. I think it's time to reveal everything." Sit down, Jack. I think it's time to reveal everything. Marcus's words hung in the air like a sentence. Jack remained standing, tense, preparing for the worst. His mind was already constructing devastating scenarios. A betrayal, a secret affair between Marcus and Maria, something that would destroy not only his wife's memory, but also all the fragile balance that he and Lily had achieved in the last few months. I prefer to stand, he replied dryly. Marcus sighed, walking to the large window of his office. Outside, Portland was beginning to light its nightlights, creating a carpet of urban stars under the darkening sky. I told you about the educational project and how I met Maria, but I omitted a crucial part of that story, he began, without turning around. It wasn't just a project for me, it was a redemption. Jack frowned, confused. Before Nexus technology became what it is today, we were a small startup focused on software for businesses. Our big break came with a government contract for educational systems. That's what put us on the map. Marcus turned, facing Jack directly. The problem is that we got that contract in a questionable way. It wasn't exactly illegal, but it definitely wasn't ethical. We used privileged information, made promises we knew would be difficult to fulfill. I was obsessed with success, willing to do anything to transform Nexus into a giant. Jack listened attentively, still not understanding the connection with Maria. The system we developed was flawed, full of bugs. Schools complained constantly, but we suppressed the criticisms, blamed the inadequate infrastructure of the institutions, until we received a devastating evaluation from a mathematics teacher. She completely dismantled our software, exposed all the pedagogical deficiencies, showed how it was harmful to the learning process. Maria, murmured Jack, beginning to understand. Marcus nodded. Her analysis was so forceful, so technically accurate, that we couldn't ignore it. Instead of trying to silence her, as my advisors suggested, I decided to invite her to help us fix the system. It was the best decision I ever made. He walked to his desk, opening a drawer from which he took out a folder. Maria completely transformed our approach. It wasn't just about fixing bugs. It was about rethinking the entire concept of educational technology. She forced us to go back to square one, to really understand the needs of students and teachers. Jack felt a mix of pride and sadness. This was the Maria he knew, passionate, brilliant, incapable of accepting mediocrity when the future of students was at stake. The Education for the Future project was born from this process, continued Marcus, handing the folder to Jack. It was conceived as a form of reparation for past mistakes, a chance to really make a difference in the educational system. Jack opened the folder. It contained reports, evaluations, printed emails. Maria's familiar handwriting covered the margins of various documents. His heart tightened as he recognized the way she underlined important words, how she drew small circles next to ideas she considered promising. "Why are you showing me this now?" he asked, his voice softer. "Because the journalist who contacted you is investigating Nexus's past. She discovered the questionable government contract, the flaws in the original system, and somehow connected the dots all the way to Maria, you, and Lily. She's constructing a sensationalist narrative, suggesting that I'm trying to buy your family out of guilt or something worse." Jack closed the folder, processing the information. "And isn't that what you're doing? Trying to compensate for what happened?" Marcus hesitated, clearly measuring his words. In the beginning, perhaps, there was an element of guilt, yes. Not for the inappropriate relationship that the journalist is insinuating, that never existed, but because when Maria fell ill, I was pressuring her with deadlines, asking for more meetings, more analyses. Even after she started treatment, I continued sending emails, documents to review. I was so focused on the project that I didn't realize how much she was... He didn't complete the sentence, but he didn't need to. Jack understood that feeling well. He himself had drowned in work after losing his job at the construction company, desperately seeking new opportunities while Maria silently struggled at home. When I finally understood the gravity of the situation, I tried to help, financially. Maria refused, continued Marcus. She said you would find a way that the most important thing was to complete the project so it could benefit the students. It was the last time we talked in person. Asterisk. A heavy silence settled in the office. Jack sat down finally, absorbing everything he had heard. So the award, the job, the apartment, all of this is your way of alleviating guilt? Asterisk. Marcus slowly shook his head. It started that way, I won't deny it. But it became much more. Meeting you and Lily, seeing how you faced impossible adversities without losing dignity, hope. It transformed me, Jack. You reminded me what it is to be human, beyond being a businessman. Asterisk. Jack looked at the folder in his hands, thinking about everything they had lived through in the last few months. The initial distrust, the reluctant gratitude, the friendship that was beginning to flourish. Was it all based on guilt and reparation? What do you intend to do about the journalist? He finally asked. The truth. I'll tell the whole story, the mistakes of the past, how Maria helped us correct them, the positive impact the project has had since then. I'll take responsibility for everything, without involving you or Lily. Asterisk. Jack closed his eyes for a moment. Something still didn't fit completely. There's something else you're not telling me, isn't there? About the current project, the campus. Asterisk. Marcus seemed surprised. How did you know? I'm an engineer, Marcus. I know corporate projects. The budget for the campus is excessively generous, the location is peculiar for a technology center, and the focus on sustainability goes beyond what would be expected from a technology company. Asterisk. A slight smile appeared on Marcus's face. Always observant. Yes, there's something more. The campus won't just be the new headquarters of Nexus. Half of the space will be dedicated to a free educational center, focused on technology and sustainability for young people from underprivileged communities, the Maria Rivera Center. Asterisk. The he. Revelation hit Jack like a wave. It wasn't just an award or a symbolic ceremony. It was something concrete, permanent, that truly honored what Maria valued most, education accessible to all. Why didn't you tell me this before? I wanted it to be a surprise, to be announced at the award ceremony. I plan to invite you and Lily to help develop the educational program. Asterisk. Jack stood up, walking to the window where Marcus had been moments before. The city sparkled below, full of interconnected lives, stories intertwined by coincidences, choices, and consequences. Let's face this together, he finally said. The journalist, the ceremony, the educational center, everything. Maria deserves to have her story told, correctly. Marcus's eyes shone with contained emotion. Are you sure? This means public exposure for you and Lily. I have nothing to hide, replied Jack, and Lily needs to learn that it doesn't matter where we came from, but where we're going. Asterisk. Asterisk. The conference room of the Continental Hotel was packed on the night of the Maria Rivera Award for Educational Innovation ceremony. Educators, business people, authorities, and students were accommodated in chairs arranged in a semicircle in front of the elegantly decorated stage. Backstage, Lily was nervously adjusting the turquoise blue dress that Sophie had helped her choose. Her hair, carefully combed, was tied in a simple bun, adorned with a small silver clip that had belonged to Maria. You look beautiful, Princess, said Jack, approaching. He himself looked like another person in the well-cut dark suit. Nervous? A little, she admitted. What if I forget what I have to say? Just speak from the heart. Your mother would be incredibly proud of you, you know. Asterisk. Tears shined in the girl's eyes, but she contained them with a brave smile. I know. Uncle Marcus showed me the videos of her talking about the project. She was amazing, wasn't she? More than any word could describe. Asterisk. Marcus appeared, impeccable in his grey suit, but with a tense expression. Are you ready? The ceremony will begin in 5 minutes. Asterisk. The week preceding the event had been turbulent. As planned, Marcus had given an exclusive interview to Business Magazine, telling the whole story of the educational project, Maria's fundamental contribution, and how the casual encounter with Jack and Lily at the restaurant had changed his perspective on corporate social responsibility. Surprisingly, journalist Deborah Fox, initially in search of scandal, had been so impressed with Marcus's honesty and vulnerability that she had transformed her article into a reflection on business, ethics and redemption. The story had generated a wave of public support, with other companies announcing similar social responsibility initiatives. The master of ceremonies announced the beginning of the event. After a brief introduction about the importance of educational innovation, he called Marcus to the stage. The businessman walked to the podium under polite applause. Good evening, everyone. We are here to celebrate not only innovative educational projects, but to honor the legacy of an extraordinary educator, whose vision and courage completely transformed my company and, by extension, the lives of thousands of students across America. He paused, looking at Jack and Lily backstage. Maria Rivera wasn't just a brilliant mathematics teacher. She was a visionary who understood that technology without humanity is empty, that innovation without purpose is useless. Marcus then briefly told the story of the Education for the Future project without omitting his own mistakes, and how Maria had propelled a radical change in approach. He spoke about how the project, currently implemented in more than 200 public schools, had significantly improved students' performance in mathematics. But Maria's true impact goes beyond numbers and statistics. It's in the sparkle in a child's eyes who finally understands a difficult concept, in the confidence of a teacher who finds new ways to teach, in the renewed hope in communities where quality education seemed a distant dream. He made another pause, his voice gaining a more personal tone. And it's also in the inspiring courage of her daughter, Lily, who at 10 years of age teaches us that determination and hope can overcome the greatest obstacles. Lily squeezed her father's hand, moved to hear her name. It is with immense honor that I invite to the stage Jack Rivera and his daughter Lily to help me announce not only the winner of the Maria Rivera Award, but also a new initiative that, we hope, will truly honor the legacy of this extraordinary educator. Jack and Lily walked to the stage, received by warm applause. The girl held her father's hand firmly, but her face showed the same determination that had led her to enter Prairie Sun months ago. Together, the three announced the winning school of the award, a public institution from the outskirts of Portland that had developed an applied mathematics laboratory using low-cost technology. Lily handed the trophy to the school's principal, who hugged her emotionally. Next. Marcus revealed to the public the project of the Maria Rivera Educational Center, which would be built next to the new Nexus Technology campus. Images of the architectural project were displayed on large screens, showing a modern and sustainable complex, with classrooms, laboratories, a library, and communal spaces. And I have the pleasure of announcing that the final architectural project will count on the special collaboration of a future architect, whose vision of sustainable buildings already impresses experienced professionals. Lily Rivera will help us ensure that the center is truly a welcoming and inspiring space for all young people. Lily's eyes widened in surprise. She didn't know about this part of the announcement. The audience applauded enthusiastically while the girl, overcoming her initial shyness, approached the microphone. My mother always said that we build the future with the tools we have today, she said with a clear voice, though slightly trembling. She taught me that knowledge is the most important tool of all, because with it we can build anything, even hope. The simplicity and depth of the girl's words moved the audience. Jack, observing his daughter, felt a pride that almost couldn't fit in his chest. Somehow Maria was there, alive in Lily's words and bright eyes. After the ceremony, while they talked with guests during the reception, Sophie discreetly approached. Jack, there's a lady who would very much like to speak with you and Lily. She was Maria's colleague at school. The woman, approximately 50 years old, introduced herself as Rebecca, former pedagogical coordinator of the school where Maria taught. Maria talked so much about you, she said, moved. Lily, Did you know she kept all your drawings in the teacher's room? She showed them proudly to anyone who wanted to see. Asterisk. The conversation with Rebecca brought to light precious memories, small details of daily life that Jack had almost forgotten. As painful as it was to remember, there was also comfort in knowing that Maria had lived surrounded by people who admired and respected her. Asterisk. At the end of the night, when most of the guests had already left, Jack, Lily, and Marcus sat in a quiet corner of the hall. They were exhausted, but with a feeling of accomplishment. "And now," asked Lily, yawning, "what happens next?" Jack and Marcus exchanged a knowing look. "Now comes the most important part," replied Jack, "building the future, day by day." "Like a house," completed Lily, smiling, "brick by brick." "Exactly," agreed Marcus. "And speaking of building, Jack, I'd like to discuss a proposal with you. I'm thinking of creating a sustainable innovation department at Nexus focused on technological solutions for affordable housing. We would need a director with experience in civil engineering and a humanitarian vision." Jack raised his eyebrows, surprised. "Are you offering me another job?" "I'm offering a partnership," corrected Marcus. "You know the technical challenges and, more importantly, you understand the real needs of people. It's the perfect combination." Jack looked at Lily, who could barely contain her excitement. "Dad, you could build houses for people like we used to be," she exclaimed. "It would be perfect." The idea was tempting. It was no longer about charity or guilt, but a genuine opportunity to transform his experience, both professional and personal, into something meaningful. "I would need freedom to implement unconventional approaches," said Jack, already considering the possibilities. "Total freedom," guaranteed Marcus. "You define the projects, the priorities, the team. I'll just be supporting with the necessary resources." Lily observed the conversation, her eyes passing from her father to Marcus and back. Suddenly she laughed. "What is it?" asked Jack, curious. "I'm thinking that it's funny how everything started with a birthday cake," she replied. "Who would have thought that a piece of cake could change our lives?" The three laughed, recognizing the profound truth in the girl's simple words. Life was like that. Unpredictable, surprising, capable of completely changing direction at the most unexpected moment. Weeks later, the apartment in the Phoenix building was finally completed. The renovation had transformed the abandoned space into a welcoming home, full of light and color. Jack had decided to buy it from Marcus, insisting on paying a fair value in installments compatible with his new salary as director of the Sustainable Innovation Department of Nexus. Lily, now adapted to the school and surrounded by friends, stood out more and more in her studies, especially in mathematics and sciences. Her sustainable architecture project had won first place at the fair, and the teacher had suggested that she participate in a special program for young talents. The Maria Rivera Educational Center was beginning to take shape on the land adjacent to the new Nexus campus. Lily's suggestions for communal areas and green spaces had been incorporated into the final project, to the girls' pride. On a sunny Saturday afternoon, Jack, Lily, and Marcus visited the construction site of the center. As they walked through the grounds, observing the recently completed foundations, Lily ran ahead, pointing excitedly to where each space would be. "Here will be the library, and there the science laboratory. And look, Dad, they've already marked where the garden I designed will be." Jack observed his daughter with a serene smile. Of all the constructions he had supervised in his career, none was as important as the one in progress here. Not the physical, a building, but the reconstruction of their lives, the foundation of a future that months ago seemed impossible. "She's extraordinary," commented Marcus, stopping beside Jack. "She has the same passion and vision as her mother." "And the same stubbornness," added Jack, laughing. "Yesterday she explained to me for almost an hour why we need to install a rainwater collection system at home." They observed in silence as Lily animatedly conversed with the engineer responsible for the work, pointing to the plans and gesturing like a small professional. "You know, Jack," said Marcus after a moment, I spent years building a company, accumulating fortune, seeking recognition. I thought that was success, but now I understand what really matters. And what would that be? Building something that remains beyond us, something that transforms lives. He paused, observing Lily. Maria understood that long before me, before all of us. Jack nodded, feeling a wave of gratitude. For Maria, who even in absence continued to guide his path. For Lily, whose courage had changed everything. And even for Marcus, who had transformed. Guilt into purpose, business into humanity. "Dad, Uncle Marcus, come see," called Lily, waving enthusiastically from an area marked out on the grounds. "This will be the room with Mom's name, *." They walked to her, the three together under the Portland sun, united by something stronger than blood ties, the promise of a better future, built with the imperfect but powerful tools of the present: compassion, courage, and hope.